name is Rajjat Kharbanda. I am the research director and the client partner at 6W Research. I feel very excited to be here at this event, and since I'm moderating this event after such a long time, and it's my pleasure to be here. So, today we will be discussing on the topic the future of stationery retail expanding the digital footprint for the post-pandemic world. So to discuss on this, we have our esteemed panelists, right? So let me give a brief introduction of them, and then we can start with a panel discussion, right? So first we have Mr. Lovrence Kessler, Managing Director, Simon-Kucher and Partners. Next we have Mr. Konrad Schwitter, Managing Director, Office One. Last but not least, we have Ms. Jackle, CEO, co-founder and creative 971. Can I have you guys on the stage, please? Yeah, that's fine. So can I have a big round of applause for them? Okay. So last 1.5 years, or rather 2 years, were just like a roller coaster where we have seen paradigm shift across various industries, including stationery. Right, this pandemic has changed the entire ecosystem of the market. In fact, has pushed us to adopt the digital platforms, and we have seen worldwide lockdown globally, which has actually impacted the growth of stationery market globally. Right. I hope all you can hear me. Yeah. Okay. So this pandemic, has changed the entire education ecosystem. In fact, schools and colleges, and also the office culture has shifted into the era of virtual world, right? So I would request my panelists to share their viewpoint, how they think the market gonna be in the coming years, and what they have experienced during these difficult time frames. So I would request our panelists to share their viewpoint one by one, and then we can maybe at last we can have the Q&A session with the audience as well. So, Mr. Lovering, would you like to add something?
Good afternoon. Hi. First of all, thank you for the invitation and glad to be here. Yes, you raised a very important point. What has changed and what might change? The first question is easier to answer. The second one, as we have seen just to the pandemic, the world is very different from what we would have expected. So I think looking into the crystal ball is more difficult, but we can, I think, discuss some trends, right? I think the obvious thing is that the shopping channels have massively changed, right? So massive shift towards online, omni-channel, and which of course has posed quite a bit of, let's say, challenges to smaller players who did not have their own last mile delivery. It's about who do they partner with, which platforms do they use, how can I make sure that I get the visibility? And also the marketing has entirely changed, right? So I can, of course, pay Google AdWords and do Insta campaigns or Facebook campaigns, but how do I make sure that my money is well spent? And I'm competing suddenly against a whole different level of competitors, whereas traditionally my competitors have been more geographically limited. We can discuss about how we define the geography, right? On the other side, I think, and moving into the future, there's a lot of opportunities because I think new use cases have erased, right? So whether we take a huge portion of stationery and packaging was on the B2B side, now a lot of companies encouraging working from home, right? You can think of how you really change your revenue model, your offering, so that you're also accessible to the respective employees at home. And companies are listening to that. They want to make sure that the employees, when they're working from home, that they are having all the equipment, etc. So there are new opportunities ahead of us, but a lot of that will stay. I think we will never go back to the old physical office world, not to the same extent. But the new opportunities, I think, are what everyone can embrace and get ahead of the game.
Maybe something in hybrid. So, Mr. Konrad?
Take a second. Now it's okay.
Yeah.
Now you can hear me. Okay, for what did change for Office One? At the very end, not that much changed since the beginning of the crisis till today. During the crisis, we had a couple of changes, meaning once we had the lockdown, online, of course, went up like crazy. And after 3 months, it came back to where it has been, more or less.
Okay.
For us, it's been extremely important that we had this online channel. And for me, the learning is better be prepared for difficult situation in a company.
Okay.
Means we control the whole process till the very last mile. So we have our own drivers, own stuff, and we defined ourselves as how can I say, during the crisis, that we are eligible and then we can work, continue to work like the Amazons and all those guys. We told ourselves that we are online, we were important, and so we kept working.
Okay.
Quite successful. And now we experience that people want to come back to the regular retail store
Correct.
again.
Correct.
They want to see and touch our stuff. Maybe not toners, but if it comes to home office or to stuff they really like, or they want to make a nice workplace at home, they want to see and touch.
Okay. So, Miss Julia, do you like to add something?
Yes, I think first of all, from a perspective from an agency, we're building e-commerce websites in the region in and out for more than 5 years now, purely on Shopify and Shopify Plus, which is only e-commerce driven, so we don't really touch portfolio websites. So we've kind of first-hand experienced what it meant. A lot of companies came and approached us during the lockdown. We need a website like yesterday, which then was of course very difficult to realize. But I think Shopify as a platform is quite a great tool that helps you to realize your needs quickly. In terms of the real life transition, the problem is not you to be online or to have nice imagery, but it's the whole delivery logistics arm. What happens if a shipment get lost? What if an item is broken? Returns, customer, let's say, quality assurance, etc. So it was more on the whole delivery, the whole fulfillment arm that was a bit, a challenge, or still is a challenge, because a lot of times people believe, my products are online, I'm good now. But this is not how it is. Your product is online, which is great, but
Right.
you need to make sure to market it, where to market it. Are you having, let's say, 10 different distributors? Are they all having the same tone of voice? Are they speaking, into different audiences? So it's a bit of funneling that and channeling that into the right ways. But I think pre-COVID, it was the way of saying, it's nice to have an e-presence. And I think now what we've learned throughout the pandemic, or even if we want to label it post-pandemic, that it's not a nice to have, but a definite essential to be online.
So, any kind of diversification you see in the market?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a lot of B2B businesses that have been purely B2B that have transitioned over into a B2C approach. I mean, I'm German, so we've naturally worked with a lot of German companies as well, even here in the market. And what they've done, they've taken their B2B businesses that they work through distributor networks, and they've said, now it's the time, let us start into the market, even if it's small, with a smaller arrangement of their products, right? If you have a product offering of 20,000 products, you will not go online with all of them at the same time. You just select a smaller variety to start. And yeah, and that's where we've seen a lot, businesses taking their branding serious and taking that brand voice out and not letting it be kind of spoiled through distributors or marketplaces. I think it's kind of, you have to own your brand and you have to kind of visionary that through. I think that's what we see in Europe, what we see even in the US, in the European markets, but it's lacking here. Like the brand tone of voice is missing here in this region.
Okay. So, Mr. Konrad, we have seen during these difficult time, we have seen the culture of digitalization, then home office culture is prevailing in the market, right? So, any kind of opportunities you have seen during these time frame?
Yes. If it comes to home office, you have you're shifting from B2B to B2C at the very end, because in a home office, the one who is sitting there, it's his place, it's his apartment, his house, and he is deciding what items, what products, what brands are standing on his desk. That's totally different from corporate environment, where the biggest thing you can have a photo of your wife on the left-hand side of your desk. Everything else is managed through the company, and this I see opportunities there to give home office owners cool office supplies, because they don't need paper. They need an environment. They sit 6 hours a day, because there is a moment you don't want to sit in a cafe anymore. You want to have a proper office again. And if you cannot go to the office of your company, you have to enrich your environment. And there I see opportunities for an office supplies and stationery company.
And I believe this will continue in the future as well, because people have started adopting the hybrid, world. So I guess this should continue in the future as well.
Yes, I think it will. Pre-pandemic, only the senior guys had a proper office at home. Now everybody has one. So this is an opportunity for us, and this is a new market. And we have to approach that.
And if I just add to that, because what is, I think, quite unique based on our analyses in the Middle East is that we have a very, very large variety of how companies are handling working policies during and after the pandemic. So we have seen companies that have given 100% freedom to their employees, whether working from home, whether working from the office. We have seen companies that have actually budgeted for their employees a fixed one-time amount, several hundred euros, and on top of that, an annual recurring amount, just as Konrad said, to equip their office. And what they buy, which brands they buy, where from, it's up to the employee to give that empowerment and that well-being to the people. On the other side, I have also clients in the Middle East, also in the UAE, whereby since June 2020, everybody went back to 100% office. Everybody's vaccinated. So if you're not in the office, you're not working. So we're talking all about office jobs here, right? But you can see this high discrepancy, and of course that has a lot of implication on how business is done. And maybe just one point, because I think the last mile delivery that was mentioned by you is very crucial. We have done studies, and this was in general on FMCG, including groceries, so not just stationaries, but we've done representative studies for UAE and KSA, and what was striking was that on average 50% of all consumers shifted back to purchasing almost everything in store because of a very poor online shopping experience. Yeah? And that's why it's so key that whatever delivery partner you choose, or you're doing it yourself, if you have those capabilities, is because this is what's elevating the brand. And at the end of the day, the consumer, as we're moving from B2B to C, he doesn't or she doesn't care whose fault it is, They just know that's where I ordered, and it didn't arrive, or I had to call 5 times, etc. It's a very, very poor experience, right? But and that brings me to the point of when we're talking about where we see the trends. I think the core part is to change the communication to the consumer and educate them that good quality has a price. We have discussions with companies that saying, oh, but stationery is commodity, there's, apart from some high, big brands, the rest is more or less commodity, and the consumers just look for the price. Well, if you go into a shop and you see 3 different pens, etc., you just take the cheapest one if you can't see the difference. But when you're sitting at home and you want a reliable delivery, other aspects come into place. And I think here there's a lot of opportunities for all the players to refocus their quality aspect.
Okay. I have to add something to that. I agree 100%. But the bad experience comes from the bad online communication at the very end. If you are having an online shop and all items are always in stock, and the customer already know, let's try, and you exactly know it's not possible to have everything in stock, and they don't mention it on the website,
Right.
you lose them. And this is it's not so easy to be online as we sometimes hear. At the very end, it's managing the website, communicating. You are always communicating on a website, and you have to write it down.
Right.
And then you lose the customer if it's not true what's written on that website.
I want to
Okay,
add something as well. I agree,
Sure.
and I think it's a great thought process. But if we think back at the time when we didn't have the internet, when we didn't have smartphones, we were writing letters. We were expecting to be waiting for certain responses. Nowadays, with an email, with a WhatsApp, if you were left on the blue marks, who is having a sense of hard feeling inside that, oh, my message was read, but why I'm not getting a
Not
response?
replied.
And it's maybe just a minute that the person needs to leave the elevator or something, but immediately you get that, anxiety. And I think that's just something it translates down. When you're online, you have a 24/7 sales machine, but it doesn't mean that there is 24/7 someone sitting there just waiting for customers to hop on. And that message also needs to be delivered. And we've seen in more transition to the social channels like TikTok and Snapchat, they even have online fun pages making fun of what people actually ordered, what they've seen in pictures and what they actually received in real life. And that even down to groceries, and you're laughing now, but how can it be if you're selecting, let's say, a green apple and you're getting a red apple, right? So there's complete a disconnect between real life and digital, and I think here is where the focus needs to be. And exactly as Lovrence said, it needs to be quality, it needs to be a certain thought process, not how it serves you now and how it serves you tomorrow, but where it serves you in a year, where the brand needs to be expanding in 2 years maybe. And a lot of companies, they just have the band-aid on top and just fix it for now, and inshallah it will be fine. But the long-term thinking and the long-term investment is missing.
And this has happened with me as well. I had ordered a Samsung phone and I received the Apple phone. So I had to raise the request.
That's a good deal, actually.
I know. Okay, so Mr. Laurent, added to your point that we have seen the companies have taken a step of cost cutting, right? And they are more cost conscious now. So what what does this mean for the stationery retail, for the market? So what does it actually mean if this thing is happening?
Well, indeed, the cost pressure that has been mounting, I think you have 2 ways how to deal with that. One way is to try to absorb that, which will, in most cases, very quickly go at the expense of quality of service. And like Julia said, you can do a quick band-aid, but the customers will relatively quickly find this out. The second solution is to go into a much more radical customer centricity. So coming back to the point of how many SKUs do I have to have, right? I cannot have 20,000 items in stock, but I know which are the most popular items and which are the clients that are actually ordering from me, have been ordering in the past, and what are the needs.
Just one point. Sometimes if it's, let's say, online exclusive or online only, let's say, collections, then you encourage the customer. So you would give them a value, for example, that we've seen as well.
Yeah. And all these areas need to kind of make sure that there will be customers that will always be price sensitive and they will always go for the cheapest price. A company needs to decide, do I want to play in that part? I can play that and I'm the cost leader. And then I need to structure my entire business along that way. Or I am a service leader, I'm the long-term quality assurance partner, and that requires fundamental investment, and that needs to be communicated. I'm always very, I admire companies that are openly saying to their customers, we have had to raise prices and we have invested that money in XYZ. And many customers, most customers actually understand that. They understand that good service requires fundings. And this, I think, is the opportunity for many players to look into that space and see how they can long-term position themselves in a more service-oriented way, especially as also the, I would say, the shopping habits have changed. Do I have to, each time I need something, go through the list of 20,000 items and reselect? Or with digitalization, and I know my customers, I know that customer is ordering X amount of stationery products, whatever it is, in that once per quarter, twice per quarter, so I can proactively service him and do a completely different charging model than a pure transactional order comes in and then I deliver model.
Yeah, thank you for that input. We had a short discussion on the back side 30 minutes ago in terms of how big a company should be in this area, and we are at Office One. We are convinced that we have to make a pre-selection for our customers, and to be able to do the pre-selection, you have to understand them and the portfolio and the market. And therefore we reduced our portfolio heavily. We are not interested in having 20,000 items. We cannot fulfill. We decided to have 4,000, which is enough if you manage them properly. And at the very end, your portfolio defines more or less your customer, and not vice versa. That means we decided which items we have, and at the very end, because of our decision, we have the customers we deserve or we want, and not the ones we cannot make happy. As a small company, we will never ever be able to make Etisalat happy. They will never be happy with us.
Right.
We are too small.
Correct.
And therefore we don't tender, for example. We don't deliver to them.
All you need to do is create your niche and focus on the customers.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I have last 2-3 more questions, and before we can have the Q&A session with the audience, right? So I would request you guys to be ready with your questions, right? So Mr. Lovrence, what can stationery retailers do, right? If I talk about to grow in the market, as we have seen very difficult situation currently, right? So what these people can do?
I think we mentioned quite a few points of those. So maybe one aspect I think that is becoming, at least for certain market segments, more important is the question of sustainability. And the introduction we heard, I mean, it's public knowledge, Dubai wants to go completely paperless, right? Of course that will have an impact on certain products, on certain usage. At the same time, there are companies that are very consciously also communicating their footprint in CO2 reduction, etc. And all of that can trickle down into all sorts of areas, including stationery. And having, for example, here dedicated product lines, dedicated explanations of how these products have been sourced. It will not come over tomorrow, maybe not entirely in this region, but over the next years, it will definitely be an important pillar of growth.
Okay, so Mr. Konrad, we know that during this time frame, online and or you can say, what are the challenges the online or versus retail has witnessed in the market? So if we compare both the channels, so what challenges you have seen?
Maybe the question is retail versus online is
Yeah,
wrong.
retail versus online.
The question should be retail and online.
Okay.
In our case, we have retail shops and online presence, and there is the challenge: how you match the two, that you're not announcing stuff online and then you cannot fulfill it in the store. You have to be 100% in sync. That's the biggest challenge for us.
Okay.
In terms of stock keeping, in terms of pricing, in terms of description of the item, etc. There is the challenge in our case.
Sure. So any further point you guys need to add?
I think one point to what Konrad just said, this is exactly the point where it becomes important in-store and online. How do I manage it? How do I manage as well loyalty points or rewards centered to my customer? And here, I think the problem we still have that not too many brands are building on their own data, right? We see a lot of them favoring Amazon or Noon, going there because the footfall is there. It's like any food company going to Deliveroo and Talabat because you have the footfall there. But you spend a significant amount of budget, or you have to deduct from your budget that you have to spend to those companies to get you out there. It's like people realizing that renting a store in the mall gives you the traffic and footfall, but do you actually know anything about that customer? Do you know about their purchasing behavior? Unless they enter the store and they will leave their data, you won't know. You don't know how many times are they on the website, what are they buying? Are they buying 5,000 dirham a month? Are they buying 100,000 dirham a month? And that data is what makes it so powerful. So Amazon is one of the most powerful businesses worldwide because of the data they own and because they know what their customers are doing. And 100% of their decision, what they change on their website, they do that because they know that what works better. So they are the true leaders because they know what all these hundreds of thousands, millions of people are doing next and what do they want, what are they looking for. And if you keep listing your products there, you keep making, let's say, Amazon rich, but you're not using that data for yourself. So you need to, as a brand, start looking at that and leverage on that, because else, like time is just running and you'll be outrun sooner or later. This is my opinion on that. So, yeah.
Right. So I would like to thank you all for your valuable feedback and your inputs on this topic. So can I have the audience with their questions if they want to ask anything from our panelists? No?
Be a question. Don't shy away from asking your questions.
We have one.
So the industry is evolving right now. I mean, there is a lot of integration towards digital side. Obviously, paper is diminishing. What do you see in close to in next 10 years? Where does it lead to the online retailers with regards to the paper sales?
This was for me, or?
Anyone can answer. Yeah.
Well, you can answer first.
All right. So, I mean, in the coming years, what we see is definitely a shift. You're looking at, at movies where everyone was working on their iPads, etc. But you will still find people, and I think this is more coming down to a way how people memorize things. Like it's human psychology, right? A lot of people are more visual. A lot of people need to write stuff down in order to memorize it. And I think you won't be 100% able to replace a pen and a paper. It might be looking a bit different. It might be a digital pen, or it might, translate to more virtual realities, or like different levels of realizing that. But in the end, you would still have some sort of element to keep notes, to write it down, to secure it. And I think that element still stays.
Would you like to add, Mr. Konrad? Any more questions? No? So so I would like to thank our panelists who have actually shared their viewpoints about their experience during these difficult time, right? And of course, you audience who have maintained your patience, and of course, for one question, right? And ladies and gentlemen, I would like you all to again give a quick round of applause to our fantastic panelists. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the panel, the panelists, and Rajjat. Anyone would have a question? Nothing at all? There you go.
Hello, hi. The only question that I have and concern regarding the online buying, my main problem is the impulse items. As you said, like in the grocery shop, when I go, I pick up a lot of stuff. So on the stationery, as a parent, or I go buy the standard items, and I lose on the other hand on the impulse. So what's your input on that, and is there a solution on that? Or that's the main problem for me, actually.
You're talking about the digital purchase, that you're losing the impulse?
So that's my main problem on the digital side. Yeah.
I think digital, the way businesses or companies need to learn to structure their website, you have always two ways. You have one, which is the customer that knows exactly, I need this pen, I need this book, I buy it, good night, I check out, and that's it. But you will always need to create a journey for someone, like you're saying, like someone who wants to browse, someone who wants to explore, someone who doesn't know that there is a new, let's say, backpack that supports orthopedic system for the child, or, like there's always something that you need to give two journeys. So you need to give one journey for someone who knows the brand, gets a super easy, quick checkout, and you need to create a journey for someone like you who likes to browse, and then, pair that up with an email marketing, sending new offers, and doing a different presentation of the brand, probably a video, short creation of unboxing of certain tools. So just giving a different layers of let's say, engagement, even though it's digital.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, it works. No, I fully agree. We discussed between us, online it's very difficult to do that. In the showroom it's easy, you put it next to the checkout, kids, and then they divide. The sweets and yes. What's interesting in our case is we can see the orders. If we receive online orders, we see this guy, he went properly to the whole site. He went through the website and he ordered and picked stuff. And on the other hand, we see orders with one item. Then we know, he was checking, he was searching, ordering, check out, pay, done. Very difficult to do.
There is, depending on the size of the tickets and the number of tickets you have, what typically retailers do. I mean, of course, they have a much higher traffic typically. But what you can do is that you look at the ticket sizes and you look what are items that appear frequently on the ticket, and then those kind of, as you call them, impulse items that are being bought, you can identify those from the stationery retail. And if you have a relatively good view on what are your top, let's say, impulse items, you can then play around with that online and say, oh, we have a new collection, or we have check out new things customers bought X, Y, Z. That you need to have this dynamic data flow, and that constantly requires updating. And here we come to the advantage of Amazon, who can individualize the website exactly based on your past purchases and what other customers have done with a similar profile. Like Konrad said,
you can do that
Yeah,
on your
agree.
website as well, or in the
It's a bit more
cart
challenging.
at the last level when
Yes.
you're entering the cart, showing, let's say, other products from this collection or
Yes.
new or frequently bought products.
We do that as well, but it takes a lot of work, and you have to really go into the items. And most of the time, it's very obvious. If you buy this, you buy this. It's not so difficult, but it takes, and you have to type it in at the very end.
Retail is detail, and if you want to make it right, you need to look into that very, very thoroughly.
I think to come back to your kids, how they can get the experience, that would come down to why people are using, much younger generation channels like TikTok. Because on TikTok, you would say a famous TikToker will run with, I don't know, XYZ booklet or notepad, and you will be like, never heard of this, and your kid will be like, no, this guy is using it, and this guy, and I need it. So this is the whole, influencer culture itself, and you have that amongst different generations, and I think that's what the future brands that want to grow, they have to associate themselves with those relevant influencers to generate that interest. Not in the same store like you used to when you walk in a store, but digital, like decentralized. Yeah.
Thank you all for your answer. Thank you so much.
Any more questions? I guess that would be it. Feel free to wrap your panel.
So again, I would like to say that we have a very thorough discussion on this topic, and very valuable feedback was shared by the team. And yes, of course, digitalization would be there in the future as well. But what I personally believe is that the hybrid model will work, right? The combination of physical as well as the virtual world, it will run parallelly. So that's what I think. And same, I guess the panel has also shared the same valuable feedback on the same. So on that note, I would like to thank you guys and thank the panel who have shared their valuable feedback, their viewpoints, and how they have perceived these difficult time frame during this COVID crisis. So thank you all.
Thank you.